lines, you want to use lines 1 through 25.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so go ahead, read it.
The first one.
Actually, I can read it. I don't need you to.
Fair enough.
Well, let me read it. Is there an objection to this excerpt?
Well, just 1 second. I just got it up there. All right, so let me see what it says here. This is what I'm, okay. I don't have anything necessarily in opposition to in this section, Your Honor, but she does go into, later she actually says some things that add to this section.
Okay. Frank, if you have no objection, that's fine. I honestly, starting at the top of the page, it's like confusing. I don't know who it's talking about, and moreover, it doesn't seem to be inconsistent. She's talking about Rory Wilson, at least on. So what?
Judge, may I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I included the beginning of the page just for context, but she really gets down to it. Line 10. Are you sure it was Rory Wilson? Absolutely, without a doubt. Who else did you see there that night? No one that I can identify. Do you know Ty Tucker? I know him, yes. Did you not see Ty? Not that I can identify. I saw another person, but I can't identify him. In the perpetuated testimony yesterday, she was adamant 100% when Colorado asked her that it wasn't Ty Tucker. Here she's saying she can't identify the second person.
I understand that would be inconsistent with the testimony. I just didn't, again, understand how the portion about Rory Wilson. But again, if it's given context,
Your Honor, could I again interject here? I don't mean to. I don't want to step on your toes, but okay. But this is what I meant by the videos again, because okay, it is inconsistent with a statement she made, but she also says in her videotape deposition, that mentioned was the perpetuated testimony. She says there was a time there. The detective Pitcher had her thinking it wasn't me, and unfortunately, this is the result of that time, which we have the videos of where he is confusing her. He is giving her other information. He's feeding her information saying it wasn't me. That is, again, not inconsistent with what she says in her perpetuated testimony. She says exactly that.
well, I'm going to overrule the objection. I mean, if
I just think it would prejudice the jury to think that, man, she's actually saying something. Again, she is in different states of mind depending on when these were asked.
right, this happened immediately after the
No,
episode.
not the deposition.
Oh, not the deposition. You're right. But in any event, I think that that's.
I think in all fairness, we should show the context. I mean, again, she says that Detective Pitcher had her questioning at a given point, and I can see why when you look at the videos.
Okay. In any event, I'm going to allow this particular excerpt.
Okay. So
then we go to the next page.
Page 14.
This is just a continuation.
It is a continuation, Judge.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay. Is there any objection to this segment?
Yes, Your Honor, because again, this one actually does have sentences that are removed. They have, again, there's things in here that are removed. I'd have to again go over quickly here just to make sure that.
Sentences that were removed.
Yes, there's statements that are actually removed from this. I mean, if our copies are correct, it's.
Page 14,
Yep.
lines 1 through 25. What's removed?
Okay, let's see. We've got, and you saw two people.
This is I'm looking at the transcript.
I'm just making sure mine is on part. Yeah, see. Okay, no. She was the second person at the club, Troy. I think we're at Matthew Bonnets. So far, nothing consistent. Didn't see that. See, and this is where I'm getting it at here, right here. This is the section where it's been removed, Your Honor.
What
Says,
section, sir?
No, I can't. I don't remember. I know at one point a small knife fell. I know at one point another stick fell. I believe that is when Roger got it, but you were talking a year and a half ago, and they are memories that I try to hide, so I can't answer that honestly.
Why do you say that's been removed?
Because I don't see all of that there.
Well,
I mean,
I don't know. What I've been given, it says the whole page.
Because, I mean, I'm looking at it, Your Honor. It goes, okay, let me see.
Goes page 14.
Oh, you know what? Hold on. I may be mistaken. Hold on a second. Flip the page here. Okay. Now, let's see. We're at line 20. Did you see second person weapons? Okay. Checking again right here. Now, if you can see the second person. Okay, I'll backtrack on that, Your Honor. It was my mistake. I was reading the wrong section.
So to be clear, Judge, nothing has been removed.
But let me again check it for inconsistencies, though. I want to see where we're inconsistent here. Because the only thing that I see that's inconsistent with this is, that she thinks that at one point where Rory Wilson has the Billy Club, which again, I don't see how if he's on top of her slicing her throat, she thinks he has a Billy Club.
Well, Judge, it doesn't matter what he thinks. She said in her perpetuated testimony that the guy on top of her had a knife to her throat, and the other guy had the Billy Club. And here, she's putting the Billy Club in Rory Wilson's hand.
Again, this goes back to state of mind.
Yes, and those are all subjects that you can make closing argument about. The issue would be weight and credibility as opposed to admissibility. In other words, I admit it, but if you care to and you believe that this was she was confused, that her mind had been somehow or other impacted by some other event, or that it's unworthy of belief, that goes to the weight and credibility. It doesn't go to the admissibility.
No, and Your Honor, I would agree, and I'm just saying that she did make those statements in her current state. In her current statements, she said that she was confused by Detective Pitcher.
Okay.
Now, the only other thing, Your Honor, actually, hold on, let's make sure I'm correct here. No, go ahead. As far as that section, I have nothing else, Your Honor. I'm good though.
Page 15, lines 1 through 25.
Judge, before we do that, so on page 14, is this court ruling that the state's allowed to introduce those statements?
Yes.
Okay.
objection to this page?
Your Honor, quite honest, I'm trying to remember exactly what Ms. Belmont said in her testimony as far as the altercation. I'm not sure if it's, I can't honestly be sure if it is or it isn't.
Well, let's hear what the state's explanation
So,
is
Judge,
or
again,
argument.
Very well. Page 15, she clarifies who was in what position. During her perpetuated testimony, she was all over the place about who was where and who was doing what. So here she somewhat clarifies that when Matt came up the stairs, Rory was behind him, and who was facing Rory when he came up the stairs, et cetera, et cetera. So she clarifies a lot of where she was on the perpetuated testimony, which was all over the place on who was where on the inside. She also clarifies about there being a small knife that fell. She wanted to get it.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
The small knife is in reference to a knife that Roger Ruggett had, and yes, you did try and go after it. I don't see where that, again, I don't know where that's going to come in as inconsistent. But as far as, being all over the place, again, she seems to be all over the place in here too, as I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Well, I would agree with you there. Is there an objection or not?
The only objection you would get from me, Your Honor, is I don't think it's inconsistent. I mean, she's all over the place. I can barely keep up with, I'm trying to picture in my head what happened here. And, again, it is all over the place.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mr. Mansfield, unless there's something specific, it's really just hard for me to be able to pigeonhole this into a prior inconsistent statement. It just seems too broad to me. I would incline to sustain the objection.
Okay. Judge, and that was it. It was just basically lines 12 through 18 about who was where coming up the stairs and where was he in relation to Matthew Bonner. But it is vague, and that's fine. I understand. I won't use 15.
All right. So now we're on to 16, lines 13 through 25. Mr. Tucker?
I'm looking at it again, Your Honor, because this would be one of those where I was talking about lines being cut out, because it is starting off at 13.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that there's nothing that adds context, before that or after.
Well, there's nothing special about the pages. It's not like they're organized by,
That's all.
they're not organized by subject matter. They're just, chronological recordation or transcript of what was said.
Line 13. If that's not inconsistent as far as the littler person, dark clothing, that's not inconsistent. Okay, this is what, okay. Yeah, so you heard the second person speak. Yes, I think we killed him. That's what I heard him say. I would ask the prosecution what's inconsistent.
Judge, what's inconsistent is right at the beginning, I couldn't see the second person hardly at all, except he was the littler person. And in her perpetuated testimony, she's giving these statements about being 100% sure it's not Tyrone, it wasn't his physicality, it wasn't his stature, it wasn't his walk, it wasn't his persona, whatever. She went on a whole litany of explanations. But the truth of the matter is, here in this depo, she says, I couldn't see the second person hardly at all. In her perpetuated testimony, she was adamant it wasn't his walk, it wasn't his this. It's completely contradicting what she testified to.
Your Honor, if I
Yes.
may. Again, I don't see it that way because, okay, she does say that she has trouble seeing him because, you know, Rory Wilson's on top of her and she only sees parts of it, parts of it. She actually later on goes to say in this one that their best view is when he actually goes down the stairs. Now, at that point, she definitely can see size, and she does say that he's smaller than Rory Wilson. She repeated that many times in the perpetuated testimony. Again, again, I don't see where it's inconsistent here. I mean, it may be a little bit, again, maybe, I don't know, confusing, but it's not inconsistent.
Well, did she ever say definitively who among those two people said, I think we killed him?
She thinks the second person said that, but she said here that she barely saw the second person, and she heard the second person say that. In her perpetuated testimony, she was adamant the second person was not Ty Tucker.
Well,
Well, she doesn't say specifically in this that it was or it wasn't. It's not inconsistent. She just doesn't say it. She doesn't mention it.
Well, I think that the statement, I couldn't see the second person hardly at all, except he was a littler person. I think there's an inconsistency there in terms of one's ability to be so adamant as to who it's not. Now, if you want the rest of this stuff carved out, I might be inclined to do that, although I think this is precisely what you were concerned about, Mr. Tucker, as to context.
I would agree. I'm looking at it right now. I'm just trying to figure out context right here. And it's like, okay, because I know she makes other statements, and I haven't, Your Honor, I did not have enough time to go through the deposition in its entirety. I'm happy we're doing it now, but so I haven't had a chance to look at the entire thing. But I do know she goes into it later, where she's talking about, again, she sees different details. Just because she only, they pick out one detail here doesn't mean she doesn't, say other details in another section.
Well, in any event, I don't understand why this business about Todd O'Quinn at the end is in there.
I can take that out.
I mean,
Again, it was for context, but leave it in or take it.
well, so line 13, okay. Okay, line 14, line 15, line 16.
I think I would object to those, Your Honor, just because she doesn't say who says it. Like, she doesn't say that it was, she doesn't actually get asked whether or not, she recognized the voice, anything like that.
Judge, I would propose that we potentially cut it off at line 18 because that's the sum and substance of the identification.
All right, so
So we're just going to go from 13 to 17, is that correct?
18.
To 18.
18 answers the question.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that would be
All
fine.
right,
That would be fine, Your Honor.
so now we're on page 17, 14 through 25. What about this one?
Okay, this would go back to that whole picture thing. Because yes, he does confuse her and has her at a point where, and she says that it's not inconsistent with what she said in her perpetuated testimony. She says specifically that picture confused her about things, and she says right here that she is confused.
Where does she say?
Well, I mean, she's not saying specifically she's confused. What she's saying is, no, because I didn't know he had anything to do with it, or if he had anything to do with it, I didn't know what they all lived together. That was being perpetuated to her by Pitcher. And, you know, again, he specifically sat there and told her, Ty Tucker did this, Ty Tucker did that, Ty Tucker, you know, has a long rap sheet, Ty Tucker has all this other stuff, and he's literally pumping her full of it. And
So,
she says that, and she says that it confused her.
Where's the inconsistency here, State?
Judge, during the perpetuated testimony, she talked about knowing that, you know, knowing that it wasn't Ty, that Pitcher had told her, and she kept saying to Pitcher, are you sure, because I don't see it, I don't see it.
That's
And
why
here she says, didn't you tell him at the time that you knew he had nothing to do with this? No, ma'am, you did not know, because I didn't know he had anything to do with it, or if he had anything to do with it. I didn't know that they all lived together.
And, Your Honor,
So, wait, just let me ruminate on this a second. So what is this inconsistent with?
During the perpetuated testimony, she articulated that she knew it wasn't Tucker that was the second person. That is not what she's saying here. Here she's saying that I don't know if it was him or not. I don't know if he had anything to do with it or not at that point when they met at McDonald's. In the perpetuated testimony, she was adamant that he wasn't the second person.
Your Honor,
No, the defense argument is,
yeah, the prosecution just made it for me. He literally just, you know, spit back what Pitcher was telling her. You know, and again, he's sitting there telling her, she's like, are you sure? Are you sure it wasn't Ty? You know, and he's feeding her a bunch of stuff that says it, you know, says her memory is wrong. And later on, after she found out that Pitcher was lying, yes, she made it solidified her memory.
Judge, she can argue all day to the jury about what Pitcher put in her head, but this is an inconsistent statement from what she made in her perpetuated testimony.
That's why I say it's unfair to put it out of context when she says that happened, and yes, we know it happened. You just repeated it, but you want to use the section where she was being confused by him.
was he, I'm sorry, I mean, obviously he wasn't the deponent here.
No,
so-
no, he literally pulled her in the squad car, I don't know how many times, and literally sat there and said, it's Ty Tucker, it's Ty Tucker, it's Ty Tucker, over and over and over again.
Well, I mean,
And then blatantly lied to her about a whole bunch of things, and she kept on going. Are you sure? I don't think it's Ty. I don't think it's Ty. You know, and she's saying, are you sure? And she is obviously confused by the guy, and she says that in her perpetuated testimony. She, you know, again, there's nothing inconsistent. She says at one time she was confused.
okay, so maybe this was one of those times, but nevertheless, it's an inconsistent statement, so I'm going to overrule the objection. So now, page 18,
Yes, sir.
lines 1 through 25.
Yes.
Your Honor, I mean, just a quick objection here. I mean, this is one of the ones where I say taking the sentences out of it definitely changes the context.
What sentences are taken
Well, I'm
out of
looking
it? I see 1 through 25 as what the state's.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, let's see, hold on. No, after, okay, police didn't tell you that. She goes, who told you that Ty had something to do with it, right? Nobody told me. Police didn't tell me. No. Well, afterwards, when they arrested him, yes. You know, so, and that, you know.
It's not removed,
I'm
it's
sorry.
right there in full.
I would assume you would,
Sorry.
you would want that based upon what you've wrote.
Not afterwards, arrested. Yes, okay. I was having lunch with McDonald's. Nowhere near him, that's true. And again, I'm looking for inconsistencies here, because there's nothing inconsistent so far. All right. Nowhere near him. Make sure that he's involved. What kind of question is that? I can tell you I can't. Involved. So I told you. I do think this is confusing. Told you that's because the police arrested me. I'm having a little trouble here. I'm just it's a little confusing. This is actually hearsay too, by Your Honor, as far as, man, the things that I say, right? Because, okay, I'd be happy to clarify what I said in there, but, you know, you're taking my testimony and putting it in there.
Well, statement contrary to interest is admissible against a party if it's in fact contrary to one's interest. You're right, it's hearsay, but it's one of the many exceptions to the hearsay rule, which is why in many cases, statements made by the defendants are admissible if it's against interest. So,
Your Honor, I mean, the thing is, there's nothing against interest in this. I mean, I did make that statement. I made it on video in my interrogation. I mean, that's where I learned about the knife. That came from Captain Phelps. I learned it from there. So it's hearsay from her to me to Paula, which the state knows.
well, state want to respond
Sure.
to
On the inconsistency here starts with line 9. What kind of question is that? I had told you I can't identify him. The person was wearing a mask. In the perpetuated testimony, she's saying it's not Ty Tucker. Here she's saying I can't identify him. The person was wearing a mask. So here she can't say that. And in the perpetuated testimony, she's saying it was, I don't know who it was, but it wasn't Ty Tucker. That part I know. That's not what she was saying here. So that's an inconsistency.
Well, I would
And
have
then, if it continues on, it's the context of this conversation. When you get to the next part, in page 19, the knife that the police found had Matt's blood on it. That's what he said. That's what Tucker told her. And you hugged him at McDonald's? Yes, I was upset, crying because of what Roy did, not knowing, like I said, not knowing that Ty Tucker had anything to do with it, because I can't identify him as being there one way or the other. So here she's saying she can't say he was there or he wasn't there, and in her perpetuated testimony, she's 100% sure he wasn't there. So that is the inconsistency that is being articulated in the from page 18, line 9, to page 19, line 7.
Again, Your Honor, like I said, I'd almost have to, because again, you're talking about the same thing she said, and I've already argued this a few times, and yes, I understand it's an inconsistent statement, but she says she did this in the perpetuated testimony. You know, she says she did that.
She said she did what?
Well, as far as, you know, her story was, you know, she was confused because of Detective Pitcher. And that's why I suggested if we were going to do it, we might as well play it for context because, I mean, again, it's highly prejudicial. And yes, I think it outweighs the value that he has here.
Right. I'm going to overrule the objection here. So, from page 18, line 1 through page 19, line 7.
Oh, and, I'm sorry, Your Honor, as far as the hearsay, if I remember correctly, I am allowed to add context as far as my words in that.
What do you mean?
If I remember the hearsay exception, I may not be remembering it correctly.
How do you mean add context?
I actually have a chance to respond to what I supposedly said. I can't remember the hearsay.
Well,
exception.
okay, are you gonna be testifying? I guess, you told me earlier you were.
Well, I mean, I wasn't planning on it, but I mean, if they're gonna go ahead and put my words in here, I mean, I might have to.
Judge, I think what he's saying is that somehow he would be able to get up and flesh this out, and that is not how this works. This is her statement in her deposition that contradicts what she said during the perpetuated
But it also,
testimony.
Well, okay.
go ahead, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Hold it. So, let's go back here. I want to be sure, before we get into the rebuttal case, that you were not going to testify in your own case, because I didn't go through that colloquy, and so, based upon what you'd said earlier in the proceedings, that you absolutely weren't going to testify, I assumed that wasn't the case. But if that is the case, then you would, I would certainly allow you to testify before the state's rebuttal case if you want to include your testimony in your case in chief. So I didn't go through that colloquy, and I'll be happy to let you testify in your case and tell the jurors that, that's part of your case, if that's what you want to do.
Your Honor, I would, at this point, I would almost say I'd have to, because, I mean, the state's putting out things that I said in response to things that happened, and I mean, I'd almost have to. So, I mean, because that's the only reason I didn't plan on it. I didn't plan on hearsay testimony from me coming in.
I understand. Trials, you can't completely plan, but I want to make it clear, your testimony would be now. This at the beginning of the afternoon. It wouldn't be after, at this point, the state's rebuttal case. So
I would tell you, actually, Your Honor, if I could do it in narrative form as you suggested, yes.
okay, so any input from the state? As I said, I didn't go through that colloquy. I was occupied with many other things at that point, but I always, before we go any further, go through a colloquy with the defendant.
Correct.
So
we have to do that if he wants to testify. He's got the right to testify. So.
Okay, so as long as you understand, Mr. Tucker, we come back and I'd explain to the jurors that there was one more bit of evidence, or one more evidentiary presentation, and that would be the defendant's testimony. That's your right. Nobody.
I think at this point that would be the best, Your Honor.
Well, that's your choice. And yes, you within reason, you can testify in narrative form. That would certainly mean you have to speak at a pace, not a rapid pace. And normally I tell people who do that to kind of break it into segments and just not one run-on, because it's not ideal. It's awkward for a person to ask the questions to themselves. So,
Your Honor, again, if you give me a second so that I can go ahead. I got to figure out where I'm going to start, where I want to end, because I don't want to just run on forever and just rattle off. But yes, I can go ahead and I can testify via narrative form. As far as objections, could I make them from the stand? That's the only question I have.
yes, you'd have to be able to, but of course, the direct is, the cross is subject to the scope of direct within reason, but that can be broader than one might imagine, depending.
Judge, I've never seen it in the narrative. Is there any way to have a lawyer direct him while he's on the stand and have his testimony elicited from a direct examination?
Not any lawyer that I know. I'm not gonna, no.
He's got these advisors. I don't know if they're available.
They're not counsel of record. They're
And they're not available, Your Honor, or else I would ask them. But
well, then they have to make an appearance. And if they're willing to, put their name back on the dotted line, so be it. But otherwise, that's the way I've seen it done, and it's manageable as long as the person isn't speaking a mile a minute, which I don't think Mr. Tucker does that, and as long as they, pause and,
the only thing I would ask, Your Honor, because I'm just looking for some direction here, because again, things that happened over the course of this thing, I mean, I talked to other people, I had experiences with, different people. I mean, I'm sure some of that would be hearsay, it'd be objectionable. I don't know how I curb that, so to speak, and say and tell the story.
I really can't tell you, other than it's,
Just trying
like
to avoid hearsay.
any witness. I don't know what to tell you, other than I'm going to assume that the state will make objections they deem to be appropriate, and I'll make my best ruling. So if you want to testify, again, I just want to make it clear that it would be when we get back. It's not in the wake at this point of the state's rebuttal. It's part of your case in chief.
Okay, that sounds fine, Your Honor. It's just, I think it's better. It's best at this time. I wasn't aware that the state was going to do this. That's
I understand that, and again, I'm in an abundance of caution. I'm revisiting the issue about your testimony, and because I'd made an assumption you weren't, but now you are, and that's fine, and that's your right. And so, in any event, to some extent, we're going to continue with this exercise here.
I guess we should, Judge, because I'm still planning on a rebuttal case. So
All right. So,
I think Your Honor ruled through page 19 would be admissible.
yeah.
Oh, hold on, where we're at?
We just dealt with line 18, page 18, lines 1 through 7 on page 19.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. 18, 1 through 25, 19, 1 through 7. So now, page 32, lines 21 through 24. Did you see who took your purse? The other person with the backpack. And what did the backpack look like? It was black.
That's
Black?
not inconsistent.
It was black. Okay, what's that?
Judge, it was context. I'm not worried about it. We can take that out.
Okay, take that out. Page 33, line 2, 3, and 4. And what was in it? Stuff, perfume, $27. I don't know what else was in it. It's been a year and a half.
I think Mr. Mansfield and I agreed, he wasn't sure if it was inconsistent.
I don't think so.
I wasn't either, so.
I don't think so. She pretty much parallels her testimony that I recollect. So that's out. Page 38. Line 2.
Just give me a second here. Mine's
can look at this if he wants to.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, we've got to wrap this part of it up.
Thanks.
There was a scuffle between them, and Roger got thrown like into a tarp. I don't believe I said he was beating him. I was the one getting beat, but there was a scuffle between those two, the other person and Roger. And you saw the second person holding a knife to Roger's throat? No, ma'am. You did not see that? No, ma'am. You were told that? I was told that by Roger. That is why Roger wasn't helping me. And Roger was the one who told you that the other man had a knife to his throat? Yes, ma'am. But you never saw that? No, ma'am. I couldn't see past Rory Wilson because he was on top of me, beating me for the third time. I have told you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't see anything
Yeah,
inconsistent
I'm
here.
trying to see it myself. So what is the point here?
The inconsistency, Judge, is that she said she saw the other person, holding a knife to Roger's throat. Here she's saying she didn't see it, that she was told that by Roger, and she says, I couldn't see it because I couldn't see past Rory Wilson, who was on top of me, beating me for the third time. In her perpetuated testimony, she said she saw the second person with a knife, holding a knife to Roger's throat. That's not what she's saying here.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yep.
If I remember correctly, she said she thought the other guy had a billy club, not a knife.
At one point, she said that, but
And then she also puts the billy club in Rory Wilson's hand at one point.
No, that is true, and when I was looking at this testimony, she does, and it's, like I told you, she's highly confused right here, and especially the hospital one, she definitely is.
right.
Which is why, if he wants to play the video.
I'll overrule the objection. I believe it's within the scope of impeachment. So page 43, lines 1 through 10. I don't know if he was the driver. Is that the one that was arrested for being the driver? Question, yes. No, I don't know him. Have you ever seen a picture of him after he was arrested? Okay. Who showed you a picture in the newspaper? And you didn't recognize him? No. So what's the problem? Is he talking about Johnson?
Yes, she's talking about Travis Johnson here, Judge.
Okay, and so maybe that's inconsistent with the Zoom, but I told them to disregard that. It's not in play, so unless there's some...
I thought in the perpetuated testimony, she said that she looked in the newspaper and saw the picture. You know what, Judge, that's fine. Take this one out. It's fine.
Page 54, 14 through 25. The second person that you can't identify, do you know whether or not that person was white or black? I couldn't tell you. Okay. Only that the person was smaller than Rory Wilson. Yes. And you believe it was a male? It was a male. And you heard his voice? Yes. But the voice did not sound familiar to you? No. But it wasn't Rory Wilson's voice. So
The inconsistency there, Judge, is in her perpetuated testimony. She testified that it wasn't Travis Tucker's voice. And that, I'm sorry, Tyrone Tucker's voice, and that she knows his voice, and she was even specifically asked, do you know if he was masking his voice or not? And she said it didn't sound like it, and it wasn't Tyrone Tucker's voice. Here she's saying, you heard his voice, yes, but the voice did not sound familiar to you? No, but it wasn't Rory Wilson's voice.
all right. So we'll allow it. Page 57, lines 18 through 25. I may have asked you this. The second person that you can't identify that was there, do you remember what that person was wearing? Dark clothing and a mask. Did Rory Wilson have on a mask? Yes. Were the masks the same? I don't know. I didn't get to see the second person. So,
Again, Judge, it just goes to her statement that she couldn't see the second person, which is contrary to her adamant testimony in perpetuation, her perpetuated testimony where she was adamant that it wasn't Tyrone Tucker.
anything
This is the
further?
last page, correct?
Page 57, lines 18 through 25 is what.
Thank you, sir. It's 18 through 25. Clothing and mask, she says that. Mask, yes. Mask, think Mr. Mansfield and I talked about this, you know, in her perpetuated testimony, she says like it was a hoodie masks kind of thing. Again, I'm not seeing.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
I'm looking at the,
Didn't get to
hold on,
see.
let's see, because this goes over into page 58. It's like,
Well, right, but you said he was wearing a mask, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you
he-
see the person from the back when he was leaving? His
Yeah.
darkness, what kind of mask was it? I don't know, it was dark, the mask was dark, like a hoodie mask, the back.
it's not inconsistent.
I can't tell you anything about it other than that, so.
That's what I mean, that's not inconsistent. She said, literally, she said it was a dark hoodie type of thing. She doesn't say anything specific about a mask. She doesn't say anything like that.
Yeah. State?
Judge, 58 was more in context with the last lines in 57, where she says, I didn't get to see the second person, which again completely contradicts what she's testifying to in her perpetuated testimony, that she can't ID that person, but she knows it wasn't Tyrone Tucker. Well, how can you say that if you didn't get to see the second person?
Again, Your Honor, in perpetuated testimony, she says specifically she got a look at him from the side. The best look she got at him was going down the stairs. She didn't, you know, because again, Rory's all on top of her. You know, she's getting glimpses of him. She never says that she, sees anything, anything that is, again, that's going to specifically.
The point that the state.
She doesn't say anything about the mask, basically.
But-
She says other than it was a black hoodie type thing.
But the point that the state is trying to make here, which they've been trying to make many of these
It's kind of repetitive.
quotes, is that Miss Belmont was adamant, it wasn't Mr. Tucker. She was adamant. And then state's trying to say, how can you be adamant if you didn't see the person? That's the point they're trying to make.
I understand the point they're trying to make, but again, she says that in her perpetuated testimony. The biggest things that, for her that were the identifying features were height, which she did get. She says again, in this she's saying, okay, she didn't get a good look at him, and she does say that in there.
Okay.
But height, weight, and most importantly, the voice.
Right. Well, I believe it's within the scope of impeachment. The only question is, do you want page 58 or not? Because I would think, based upon the arguments you've made, that would almost be advantageous for you, but Mr. Mansfield's suggesting he would strike that, agree to have it stricken, but
No, I mean, if we're going to put the one in 57, you might as well put in 58.
okay, so that's that. So we're going to come back at 1 o'clock then, and again, Mr. Tucker, you're going to testify. You've informed me.
Yep.
That's fine. The only thing, and I will make, you can certainly, as we discussed, when it's crossed, you can raise an objection. The only thing I think it's important to be mindful of, and I'm not suggesting you would do that, but testimony is different than argument.
I understand that.
Oh, okay. And similarly, when you get to final argument, that's different than
Like I said,
testimony.
the
But
only-
you understand that distinction, so then I don't need to explain it.
Your Honor, the only thing I do still have a question of is just because like some of these, like the one where he's talking about, I talk about the knife and all that. I mean, I don't want to get into too much hearsay, but I mean, I was actually told that, so how do I address those type of things when I was told something like that? And that's what I'm telling DePaul.
I really can't,
It's a hairy.
I can't really answer that question.
Just deal with it when we
There's,
get there.
I'll have to hear your testimony. I'll have to hear if there's an objection. I'll have to make my best decision. But as a general proposition, hearsay is a complicated matter. Judges and attorneys review it and have courses on it and read treatises on it on a regular basis. So your question is certainly not unusual or not something that isn't fairly debatable, but I can only make rulings when I hear it and when it's objected to.
It's hard to tell your story when you can't say who you talked to or what you said.
I'm not here to impose limits other than the rules of evidence and procedure.
Judge, I would just ask the court, that Mr. Tucker should not be able to go into the IA investigations and all the
I have no intention.
collateral things that came out, because that's hearsay, it's not been admitted into this case, and he shouldn't be allowed to testify to it when he's on the stand.
Well, he just indicated he didn't intend to, and I, as a general proposition, would be consistent with what I've ruled thus far. It would be inadmissible, but we'll be back at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Dixon? Thank you. That's all I got.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Reader? No, Your Honor. Anybody else? Okay. May Ms. Dixon be permanently or temporarily excused?
She may be permanently excused, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Dixon, thank you for your patience with us. Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
And I'm going to permanently excuse you as a witness, so don't discuss your testimony to anybody except the attorneys in this case, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, madam. Ladies and gentlemen, can I get you to be back in your headquarters for 1:30, please? Okay, and we may have to take up some other additional matters, but if you could just be present for 1:30, and then we'll call for you. Okay? Sound fair enough? All right. Remember the admonitions I've given you, and we will see you all after lunch. Okay? All right. All rise. Please be seated. Our jury has left us. Okay. I'd like you all to come back for 1:15. Mr. Shard, at that point in time, I'll hear any supplemental argument as it pertains to Mr. Stevens. So, Ms. Gladden, where are you?
I believe it's outside with Mr. Stevens.
Okay. All right.
I'll go get it.
Could you please, sir, Ms. Atkins, thank you. Where's your client? I just want.
Standing outside, would you like?
Yes, please. Thank you. I was just going to release you and Ms. Gladden for lunch and have you come back for 1:30, okay? All right, see you then, okay? All right. All right, councilors, we'll come back at 1:20 and take up, as I said, Mr. Shard's supplemental.
state's permission here. When we're looking, sir, when we're looking at the picture, you can't tell whether there's 1, 2, or more bags, correct?
Correct.
When you wrote your report, you referred to it when you were just refreshing your recollection. I just want to see, you said you refreshed your recollection, right?
I did.
You referred to it as 4 pieces of a black plastic garbage bag, right?
Yes.
I'm not objecting.
So this would be states 51, Your Honor. There are items that are going to be marked as A, B, and C. There's actually 3 more items, Council. There's 3 more items in here.
So there's no objection to states 51, A, B, and C?
No, sir. I'm just offering what's depicted on the screen right now as the garbage bags, as basically
Which is states 51?
51. It's 53. So it's 53, Your Honor, if I can. 53 would be those items over there. 53 A, B, C, D, and E are for ID only, if I can.
So the offer has been made on states 51, correct?
51, I apologize, it's my mistake. 51 is already in, it's 53.
Thank you.
And I believe there's no objection to these, those will be for another day.
No objection.
To that item, the bag that we were just talking about.
So states 53,
Yes, Your Honor, which is these 3.
admitted as full exhibit.
By the way, sir, you didn't separate these as they came in?
I did not. I packaged them just as they were in the photograph.
And you didn't separate this, correct?
No.
Actually, going back to this first one, is there another inside the bag? Actually, may I just have one moment? Sir, I'm gonna show you back to the first one. There's this big piece hanging out here. And again, you didn't separate these or pull them out.
I did not.
And how many bags did you indicate in the report, sir?
4.
And sir, if you could take a look behind you. And that is photograph 26. Thank you. Is that one of the bags that you pulled out of the garbage bag that day?
It is.
And was that also seized as evidence and given a marker?
Yes.
And I'm gonna move on if I can, sir, to take a look at the photograph behind you, which is photograph 27. Do you recognize that?
I do.
Is that an item that came out of the garbage that day on Albany Avenue and Green Street?
Yes.
What is it a photograph of?
A photograph of a paper towel with blood-like staining on it.
And did you seize it as evidence?
I did.
I may approach states 55. Do you recognize that item?
I do.
And what is it?
It's the item, the paper towel with blood-like staining, contained within an evidence packaging.
Why did you seize that as evidence that day?
Found it relevant due to the fact that it had blood-like staining on it.
State would offer 55.
No objection. States 55 admitted as a full exhibit.
May I publish?
Yes.
Sir, did this also go to the lab?
It did.
Sir, if you could take a look at the picture.
This is 28.
28. Do you recognize what's depicted there?
I do.
What is that?
It's a trash bag with a bunch of vegetation in it, i.e. leaves, sticks.
And was that bag seized as evidence as well?
It was.
Why was it seized?
We found it out of place and might be relevant to the investigation.
Was any action taken on that item contained in 5020?
It was.
What was done?
It was sent to a laboratory, agricultural laboratory in New Haven.
And, well, I'll stop there if I can. Item behind you, which is photograph 29. Can you take a look at that? What is depicted on that photograph, please?
It's like 2 pieces of white cloth with a blood-like substance on them.
And did you seize those 2 pieces that day?
I did.
And did those 2 pieces come out of Albany and Green
They did.
on May 30th, 2019?
They did.
And why did you seize them as evidence?
They had blood-like staining on them, and I found them relevant.
So I may just approach. I'm going to show you what's marked at state 56. Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
It's the exhibit contained within evidence packaging.
And by exhibit contained within the evidence packaging, are you
It's the white paper cloths in an evidence package.
502P?
Yes.
They would offer 56, Your Honor.
States 56 admitted as a full exhibit.
May I publish?
Yes.
Sir, just to be clear, did you, could you please show, if I may just approach, whether it's on the actual item or the photograph, the items of blood-like stain? In front of the bigger, I would say, of the paper towels?
The bigger piece, and it's on the edges of the smaller piece.
Thank you. Sir, can you take a look behind you? That is states
30.
30? 30. I'm sorry, not states 30. Photograph 30 out of states 42. What is that, sir?
It's 2 trash bags.
Did you seize those as evidence?
We did.
Why did you seize it as evidence?
We found it relevant to the investigation.
Why is that?
Because the person of interest, or suspect, as you will call it, was dumping items of trash in trash receptacles in Hartford.
No, this is the 3 black napkins. Yes, if I can. This one has the.
Yeah, that's fine.
States 57, Your Honor.
No objection. States 57 admitted as a full exhibit.
Did you look inside that bag, sir?
I don't recall.
Now, are these different types of bags than the other ones that you saw in the seeds in the garbage?
They are.
Okay, in what way?
These are more of a grocery store type bag.
And so why did you still seize these?
We were told that suspect had thrown black bags in the trash in Hartford.
So you seized all trash?
Yes.
That you could find? Okay. And this one has, I guess, something inside of it. Do you recall that?
I don't recall.
Sir, I'm going to show you what's behind you now, please. You can take a look at that. Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
It's a razor blade.
Did you find that in the garbage on Albany and Green
I did.
on May 30th, 2019?
I did.
Did you seize that as evidence?
I did.
Why did you seize it as evidence?
I found it relevant because there was blood-like substance on it. Part of the razor blade was broken, and there was a hair-like fiber on the broken razor blade.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 58. Do you recognize this item?
I do.
What is it?
It's the broken razor blade within evidence packaging.
And to your knowledge, did this also go to the lab?
Yes.
State would offer it, Your Honor.
Could I, one here, clarify? Detective, you're referring to this item that we see on the screen, and which is, you looked at the bag that contains what we're seeing on the screen as 502S?
Yes.
You're referring to that as a razor blade, is that the term you're using?
I believe a better term would be a scraper with a razor blade attached to it.
Or a box cutter, maybe?
That could be another term.
Right, but you're referring to this item as a razor blade. It's actually a tool that's either a box cutter or a scraper that may contain, you said, a broken razor blade within.
Yes.
That's what you mean by this?
That's a better representation.
Okay, so you didn't take it apart and see what's inside,
I did not.
but you're talking about this whole item.
Correct.
Okay, I'm not going to object. I just wanted to clarify what we were talking about.
And this is States
58, Your Honor.
58 admitted as a full exhibit.
May I publish?
Yes.
Let me just have one moment, Your Honor. No. I may, Your Honor.
It's 58. So it's 58A.
58A for ID, Your Honor. And I'm gonna put it back in the whole exhibit for 58.
So for the record, it's my understanding the state is only offering at this time exhibit 58, the box cutter, but not whatever was in this envelope.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So 58 admitted as a full exhibit.
Thank you. I'm putting 58A inside of it to keep track, Your Honor, but I am only offering this item. No, sir, you indicated there was a broken blade. If I may approach. What did you mean by that?
The top portion here is a razor blade and it's broken.
And you indicated there was a blood-like substance on the blade. Where was that?
It's on the edges of the blade,
Where?
Yes.
No, where the actual blade is broken?
where it's actually broken.
Thank you, sir. Sir, take a look at the screen behind you. You recognize that item?
I do.
What is it?
It's a screwdriver?
Did that come out of the garbage at Albany and Green?
Yes,
Was that on May 30th, 2019?
yes,
Now, did you seize that as evidence?
I did.
Why?
Because there was a blood-like substance on it.
And where was the blood-like substance?
On the, can I get up and show you?
If you could, please.
It appeared to be on the shaft portion of the screwdriver.
If I can, sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 59. Do you recognize this item?
Yes,
What is it?
it's the screwdriver within evidence packaging.
Is it the screwdriver that you took out of the garbage at Albany and Green?
It is,
The one portrayed on that photograph behind you?
yes.
State would offer it.
No objection.
So that's States 59.
Yes, sir.
States 59 will be admitted as a full exhibit.
If I may, sir. With respect to States 59, where was the blood-like stain that you saw?
Butter.
Tool portion,
Tool
you say?
portion, yep.
Thank you. Sir, if you could take a look behind you. Do you recognize what's depicted on that screen?
I do.
What is depicted on that screen?
It's a white colored bra with blood-like substance on the bra.
And if you can, actually, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, see, I just, could you go back to the garbage? Here. Go back to picture 7, sir. On States 42, file 3. That bra we saw on that photograph, is it contained in picture 7?
It is.
If you wouldn't mind, please standing up and run through it.
If you zoom in right here, there's part of the strap and the bra itself.
Now, you indicated previously that you opened that bag. Why that bag?
It was already partially opened, so I could see within it. So I continued to open it up, avoiding the knot area.
And why did you seize the bra? If we can go back to that photograph, please. Thank you.
While we were investigating the disappearance of a woman, where an alleged assault had taken place.
Objection, Your Honor.
Your Honor, it's offered for why he did something.
Again, this goes to why he did something is irrelevant. Basically sees everything, is explained it had a lead-like stain on it. That is the reason why it's been seized. For him to now narrate what he thinks happened is, I think, improper and irrelevant.
Well, the information that Sergeant Duggan received, he did not previously say the information he received concerned an assault, but that does not mean that he's precluded from stating that the information he received also included information about an assault. Overruled.
Sir, was that item seized as evidence as well?
It was.
Was it given an evidentiary number?
It was.
What number was that?
502U.
on the next picture. Is that what the bra looked like that day?
Yes, that's a different side of it.
Okay, and the next one? What is that, sir?
That's a long sleeve striped shirt with blood-like substance on it that was seized from within that bag.
If I may just have a moment with counsel, Your Honor.
that year for Fantasy Fest. I don't remember what the theme was. I really don't remember what the theme was, but I know that the parade was on Halloween night, and I know it was at the Green Parrot that night, right? And I hung out there quite a bit. My friend, longtime friend, runs the place. I don't know if any of you know Jim Possum, but yeah, he runs the place. And so I still have quite a few friends. I've been coming here since I was 13, and I guess they call it a Key West rubber band is what they call me. It's like I'll move away, I come back, I move away, I come back. My daughter was even born here, right? So anyway, to keep on going here, Fantasy Fest happens, and I'm hanging out with a friend of mine named Ben, and we're hanging out on what we call the party bench. It's right outside the little deli that's right there down on the corner. And he has a dog, can't take him in the bar, so we're hanging out on the bench. And some girls come by, and they wanted to paint up our faces, and of course we let them. Right? I mean, it's like, okay, why not, right? So they go ahead and paint up our faces and all that. And then they're like, okay, well, can you pose for us? Look scary, that kind of thing. Okay, so we do, both of us, right? So there's a picture of both of us like this. But anyway, so fast forward. We go down to the point where all this has happened. And again, Fantasy Fest, I mean, look, I have a tendency to drink more when I come to Key West than any place else I ever live. It's like, especially when I was on the boatyard and working on boats and stuff like that, because I did do quite a bit of that. I actually did a restoration project on a big Hatteras yacht at one point. But, so yeah, I have a tendency to drink more when I'm down here. And this one day, and this is about the best I could recollect, is, I remember that day I was drinking Fireball with Travis, right? So I know I had been drinking that day. And I know I went into the bedroom, which is, again, CJ and Michelle's room. And I know, so this is during the time period where I'm watching it for them. So I remember that. And I don't remember much else about the day, except I do remember at one point, it's got to be later on in the evening, and I wake up and I'm out of cigarettes, right? And I wake up and I get, and Travis is actually there, right? So I go and I walk to Tom Thumb, to get cigarettes, and I go over there to get cigarettes, and I come back, and when we were up at Tom Thumb, right? I remember looking, and I'm like, I could look up, okay, there's the fire stations right there, and then you can see Laurel Avenue, where this happened, right? You can see Laurel Avenue from there. And I could see the cop lights up there, right? I could see a bunch of cop lights up there. And I remember saying to Travis, I was like, man, I wonder what happened up there, right? And it's like, and the thing is again, I'm not in dark clothing. I am in shorts. I am wearing sandals. I am wearing, normal people clothes, right? I guess I should say normal for Key West, right? But anyway, yes, and Mr. Mansfield alluded to this. I did have a nice big long goatee, and I had, Lord knows I have tattoos when I take off my suit. But the bottom line is I planned on living on boats, and yes, I was living that lifestyle. It's like, I planned on sailing off into the sunset, and just enjoying my life and kind of traveling, so I kind of look like a little savage. I'm not going to say I didn't, it's like, us boat people, we kind of had have a style, I guess. I don't know what it is. And, and yeah, it's kind of a freer way of living, I guess. Anyway, but beside the point. So getting back to that night, I remember looking up down Laurel Avenue and seeing the lights, right? By the time we got back, right, so it's not a very far walk from Tom Thumb to the warehouse. But by the time we got back there were cop cars everywhere. I mean, I'd never seen anything like that on Stock Island, right? I mean, literally, you had the FWC, Border Patrol, there's police everywhere, and they're going everywhere, right? And, there's police sirens everywhere. And I remember, we went back inside, and I think Travis did buy like a 12-pack of beer or something like that, right? And we go back inside, and I remember you could see, again, there was a bunch of these cop cars that went down into what they call it Little Haiti there, right? It's a bunch of trailers, and yes, it's before you get to the Hogfish, right? That road there. And I remember there's a bunch of cop cars that, man, you're going down into that neighborhood, right? And I'm like, damn, I wonder what those guys did. I'm like, I mean, whatever it is, they want them bad, so, and I think I said that to Travis, I'm not sure. Oh, and by the way, when we got back, that was the other thing, Big Scott was waiting for us when we got back. I remember that too. Because, okay, I know Travis, he testified that, he had the key to the door. Him and Maury Wilson were the only ones with the keys to the door, right? So, Big Scott was waiting outside for us, right? And because he couldn't get inside, right? He couldn't get in the door, right? So anyway, so we go upstairs and, and when I saw all that stuff out the window, you gotta remember I'm still a little bit lit. I managed to walk my butt down to the thumb, but, I wasn't going much farther than that. So anyway, so I go from there. Let's see, I go from there and I remember Big Scott and Travis were going to go and they were going to go hang out on the front porch downstairs and watch the cop cars go by, just see what was up. They're going to drink beer on the porch and watch the cop cars. I'm like, okay, I'm going back to bed, because I was like, I'm not, I'm still not good, right? So I went back in and I passed out and in the bed, right? And was it CJ and Michelle's room, right? So I pass out in there. And from what I understand, again, I can't, I can't really, say, except for I've seen it on video now. I mean, I've seen it on video as far as some of this stuff. But while I was upstairs and I'm passed out in there, this is where, okay, to clarify, when I went to go get cigarettes at Tom Thumb, right, it has to be sometime after the Florida Keys Electric video that you see there, right? It has to be sometime after that. I don't know when, but unfortunately, that's all we have for video. So I don't know. I just know that it had to be sometime after that, because, like I said, Travis is already there. So it's like, okay, I know it has to be there, right? So anyway, so I don't know exactly, what time. I couldn't tell you exactly what time. I do know that yes, it would have been helpful if we had the video from Tom Thumb.
Judge, can I object? Can we come sidebar?
Oh, okay, yeah. So. Okay. So we'll resume with the direct examination testimony.
So I'm going to, okay, back to where we are with the story. So again, I'm passed out in bed and somewheres along the lines, again, the police show up at the house is because, okay, this was told to me by Travis and Big Scott.
Objection to hearsay.
Okay.
We'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Well, I get woke up along the lines somewheres along the night, and I don't remember when, but I remember, man, I get woken up in the middle of the night, and because when they went downstairs to go and check this out, right? I remember telling them, I was like, I'm gonna go sleep, man. I'm like, yeah, tell me what happened later, just tell me what happened, because I mean, it is kind of a big deal, So anyway, so I go pass out, and somewheres along the night, I wake up, man, and Rory Wilson is there. And Travis is there, and Big Scott's there, and I mean, we're drinking, and yeah, smoking some weed, I mean, and as far as crack, I don't remember, man, the crack thing, not too much of it anyway. I mean, I vaguely remember some of it, but, you know, but the thing is because, you know, I say that because I seem to remember somebody having crack and somebody smoking it, but man, I don't remember. I do, you know, again, at this point, I'm resuming drinking and I am smoking weed at this time, right? So I'm not, you know, again, I'm refogging my brain at this point. So anyway, so after that, let's see, because, okay, like I said, you know, again, I had a tendency around Fantasy Fest. It was usually a couple weeks worth of partying, man, during Fantasy Fest is usually what it was for me, you know. But, you know, I don't remember much, man, as far as the next day. I don't really remember too much as far as that went. You know, I do remember, okay, this is one thing I do remember. I go, because again, it starts, to, you know, it's been many years and I can't really tell you guys, man, you know, exactly, because it has been years and I'm trying to, you know, my best to remember here. But I do remember there's a point that comes in there where we have two detectives that show up at the door, right? And they come to the front door. And I opened the door for them. You know, I literally opened the door for them. And it, you know, I know now who they are. You know, I mean, I'm sure they introduced themselves at the time. I just don't remember them introducing themselves. But it was Detective Smith and Detective Fernandez, right? And now, don't get me wrong. I knew they were detectives because they're not wearing uniforms and they've got their badge on their belt, right? So the thing is okay. So I know they're detectives, right? And they start asking me questions about Rory Wilson. Right, and you know, I know Rory. I mean, I don't know. You know, again, it's not like we hang out all the time. It's not like I know him. You know, I know him that well, right? But I know him, right? And but they're asking me questions like, okay, you know, they're asking me, you know, is he a drug dealer? You know, they're asking me, you know, stuff like that, right? And I'm like, well, not that I know of. You know, I know he has a job. You know, I mean, I know he has a pregnant girlfriend. I know that. You know. But, you know, they're asking me a bunch of different questions, right? And, you know, I actually even, you know, I even gave him, you know, Rory's phone number. I was like, you know, if you want to contact him, here, I'll give you his number, right? And I remember Rory after that, man, it's like, you know, it's hard, weird. But he texts me right after they leave. And because I also told him that Rory's door is around the other side of the building, right? It's actually on the back side of the building. He has like a front door that's all his own, right? And I told him about that. And it's like, so anyway, again, you know, it's a little fuzzy here, but I do remember Rory texting me not long after they left, right? And, you know, he's like, you know, cops.
Objection to hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Well, anyway, so I do remember, you know, telling Rory I go to you know, him because they left me a card, right? And I go knock on his door and I give him the card, right? And I said, look, man, these aren't uniformed officers. These are detectives, man. I'm like, you know, and they were asking me some questions about you, and you might want to give them a call. You know what I mean? So anyway, so that's what I tell them, and I give them the card, right? And after that, let's see. I'm trying to remember anything important after that, because, you know, okay, after that, I don't remember too much. Oh, because it wasn't too long after that where they come in and they do this raid. But okay, prior to the raid, I remember this. It's Thanksgiving time, right? So it's around Thanksgiving, right? And I remember DeLuna's had like a Thanksgiving dinner, like a free Thanksgiving dinner or something like that, right? And, you know, I like DeLuna's, and so I went over there for that. And I think this would be the 21st. I would have to say it's the 21st because actually, yeah, I know it's the 21st now. Okay, so it's the 21st, right? And, you know, I go and, you know, I was a little sketched out by, man, the detective showing up there, you know, because look, you know, the warehouse, you know, like I said, Rory Wilson, you know, and April had cops come there many times, right? And look, it's only a matter of time before you're going to get caught up in something, right? So I didn't want to stay there very long, and I actually told CJ and Michelle this, right? I'm like, you know, I'm trying to be a friend here, but at the same time, I'm not trying to hang out here too long, right? And so anyway, so I remember, you know, the raid at the warehouse. You know, that's what Travis called it. I don't know what you actually call it, but that night, you know, okay, I went to DeLuna's, went and did the whole dinner thing, and this is when I first heard about what had happened up at the treehouse, right? I hear through a friend of mine, Janice. We were having dinner that night, you know, at the DeLuna's thing, And she told me that,
Objection to hearsay.
oh, okay, I was
Stating
informed.
the objection in terms of the details.
I was informed that, somebody got stabbed in the parking lot up at CVS. That's what I was informed of, right? And so that was my first, hearing of this. Anyway, but that same night is when this thing happens as far as the whole raid thing. And I'm telling you, it's the stupidest thing I ever did, man, in this whole thing. Because, okay, they come in, and I'm upstairs, and I'm literally in CJ and Michelle's room, and I had a laptop, kind of like I do now, but I had a laptop, and I was watching TV on the laptop, right? And I was just getting ready, watching, another show. And when they came in, the way that place was laid out, they had because it was an old warehouse, right? So they had, the one I was in, you could literally see to downstairs, right? It had like a plexiglass window that went across one of the walls. I imagine it was like an old supervisor, like an old supervisor office or something. But you could look down and you could actually see right downstairs, right? And I hear a bunch of commotion down there. And I look down, from the plexiglass, the window, and I could see the cops banging on the door, right? They're actually, because, okay, it's two separate, Rory's got his in the back. There's this big storage room. And then there's like the stairs that go up to the other, I don't want to say apartments, but the other rooms where people were renting, right? And so they're banging on the door, right? And they've got a battering ram. And there's boom, boom. And then I see they've got ski masks on. They've got assault rifles. There's smoke. I mean, literally, I look down there and I'm just like, oh my God, right? And so anyway, do the dumbest thing that you could possibly ever do. I go out of CJ and Michelle's room and I come walking down the stairs with my hands up, looking like an idiot because I'm sitting there going, I'll open the door, just don't shoot. Like they can see me. It's like, so as soon as I open the door, the next thing you know, I've got an assault rifle in my nose, right? And they're leading me out. And, literally I'm like whipped around, handcuffs on, and taken out to a squad car, right? And it's like, and I remember, and one thing I didn't like is I remember as I was going by, seeing Rory Wilson's girlfriend on her stomach. Now, look, April and I didn't like each other, that's true. But she was 8 months pregnant, and seeing her on her belly on the ground did not make me happy. But they take me out to the squad car, and I am literally, I have no idea what's going on. I'm literally sitting out, do you guys have a warrant? Am I being detained? Am I arrested? The whole thing. I have no idea why I'm being taken out to the squad car or why even any of this is happening, right? But based on what the detectives told me that had showed up there a few days earlier, I guess, based on what they told me, I thought it was over drugs. I thought maybe, they were there for drugs or something, I didn't know. But I just know that, man, they came in, they're coming in like that. They've got a reason, if they're coming in like that. And, so I'm way confused at this point. I have no idea what's going on. And I'm sitting in the back of the squad car, and they left me out there for a while, and I'm still, I have no idea. And eventually somebody got in the driver's seat. I don't remember who it was, but somebody gets in the driver's seat, and I'm literally I'm asking a bunch of questions. I'm like, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And so, eventually they tell me they want to take me down to the station. And I'm like, well, look, I don't have a shirt on. I don't have shoes on. I don't even know what this is over. I'm like, am I being arrested? Any of that stuff, right? And no, it ends up, actually, his detective Pitcher, he goes and he gets me a shirt. It's like a camouflage shirt, but he gets it from David Gross's room, right? And he brings it down, so I at least have a shirt on, right? And so they take me down to the station, right? And when they take me down the station, I'm trying, because again, this is, it's pretty traumatic. I'm not gonna say it's not. It's pretty traumatic when that kind of stuff happens. But anyway, not that I've been through it, I've been through it a bunch of times, but like I said, I'm lucky I didn't get shot going down the stairs. Anyway, so bottom line is they take me into the station. And when they take me in the station, let's see, I don't remember who it was that brought me in. I know they bring me in and they put me in an interrogation room, right? And when they first start talking to me, I'm like, again, I'm wondering why I'm here.
I'm objecting to his testifying to his statements made back then.
I just said I was wondering why. I'm telling you my thought,
I understand, but in terms of the statements that you made at that time, I would sustain the objection.
Are you talking about what I would tell the police?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, I'll leave that out then. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. I'll leave that part of the story out. Anyway, so I go into the interrogation room, and at first, they're questioning me, and I'm thinking at the time, I'm like thinking, okay, remember I said I thought it was over drugs, right? So, and they're asking me these questions, and first that's what I thought they were, again, they're asking me because they want to know information, right? So, but then it comes around to the murder, somewhere's in there, right? And they start asking me questions about it. And again, I'm thinking, okay, they asked me what I knew about it, that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I don't want to testify to what they asked me. But, but at the time I remember thinking, they just wanted information from me, right? They just want to know what I know, what I've heard, that kind of thing. But somewhere's along the lines in there, and, it became very clear they thought I had something to do with this, right? And, I remember, wait a second, because I'm forgetting about a part here. They take me out of the interrogation room at some point, and they take me down, they put me in a squad car, right? And I'm still in handcuffs, right? So I'm still in handcuffs, but they put me in the squad car, and they leave me down in the squad car for, I don't know how long, it had to be like an hour, I have no idea, but I was in the squad car. And then they bring me back up, and they ask me a bunch more questions, right? And, like, now it's, I'm getting this feeling, I'm like, okay, wait a second. They're not asking me because they think, because they just want information. They think I had something to do with this thing, right? And, yeah, at the time I remember, that they went to that direction. And, again, I'm very adamant. I get very adamant once I realize this. I'm like, oh, no, but, yeah, so I don't know if I can testify to what I said, but I remember, saying it to them. I was like,
Objection to what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, then I won't say what I said then. But I will say this, I was very adamant about, not having anything to do with it. So eventually it gets down to the point where I've been interrogated all night over this thing. And it got to a point, I mean, I was like, look, I'm like, are you going to arrest me? Are you actually going to arrest me? Or am I free to go? Can I get, look, I'm tired of being here. I'm tired of saying the same, giving these answers. Can I go home, or are you going to arrest me for this thing? And they let me go, right? And not only did they let me go, the bad part about that is they made me walk home. And I remember the directive was to, check out the cameras, how many cameras there were, right? And and they did give me, I'll give them this, they gave me slides, because remember I told you I didn't have any shoes. They gave me slides, right? The stuff they use in jail, the slides, right? Kind of like flip-flops. Anyway, so they give me those and send me on my way. So now I got to walk all the way home, which, okay, it's a little distance, And so I walked there, and I probably got there, I don't know, I probably got there like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. It was early in the morning, and I've been there all night, right? And when I get there, the door is locked, and as we've said, I didn't have a key, right? So, but my stuff is still in there. Now I'm freaked out. I gotta tell you, I'm freaked out, because okay, when they, again, that I've never had that happen, right? So I'm freaked out about the thing, and when I get there, the door's locked, and I remember I had to throw rocks up at the windows to finally get Travis to come down and open the door, right? So he comes down, he opens up the door, and I tell him what happened. I was like, I just tell him what happened to me. I was like, I can't believe it, I can't believe they took me down there, blah, 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 this, that, and that, right? So, anyway, but I don't want to stay there. I don't want to stay there. I'm like, okay, this is way more than this is way more than I want, right? So, I get my stuff together, and I literally grab all my stuff, and I tell CJ Michelle, I called up CJ Michelle, and I was like, look, look, it's all good, you guys, man, but I can't stay here. You know what I'm saying? I can't stay here anymore. And I remember them asking me if I would at least grab, like, they had family photos and pictures of kids and stuff like that. And they asked me if I would grab that and take it down to Burger King and drop it off there, right? And I was like, yes, I can at least do that for you, So I grabbed a bunch of the pictures, man, from their room, and I tried to grab, anything, that could be of value or sentimental value to them, right? Because now I'm leaving, and I'm not staying there. And so, yeah, I grab all that. I put it into a bag for them, and I grab my stuff, and I head on out, and I go ahead. And this is, I don't know, it's, I don't remember what time of day it is. I know it's morning, I mean, like I said, I got there probably like 5, 6 o'clock, so I don't remember how long it took them to open the door or anything like that. But I did grab, some stuff, dropped it off at Burger King, and I do remember I called 2 people that day. I called my friend Cliff, and I called one of my brothers, Jeff. He's not blood-related brother, but he is my brother in every sense. But yes, so I go ahead and I call them because I'm freaked out, right? Because I knew when they let me go, I knew that, okay, they let me go, but I got the distinct impression that, man, no, they thought I had something to do with this, and they were, this was not going to be the last time that, they talked to me about this. And, I was scared. I'm going to tell you, straight up, I was scared, I didn't know what was going on, and I was like, I can't explain to anybody, the feeling, but I was scared. So that's why I called them up, because I was like, look, man, everything everything.
Objection to what he was telling these people?
Oh, I'm talking about my head.
All right.
But anyway, in my mind at that point, yeah, I mean, everything was telling me, man, it's like, you need to get out of here, right? I mean, these people, man, they think you had something to do with this. And, but then, the other side of me is going, if I take off, they're going to think I did it, So, I mean, I have this little war going on in my head. And, anyway, so I went from Burger King and I started walking down towards Key West, right? Because there's that little bridge and, park and stuff there. And, I remember as I came across the bridge, there was a couple guys there, and they're drinking off of, they're drinking off a liter or whatever, it's the rock gut vodka. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I need one. I was like, you might, So I sat there with them, took a couple hits off that, and I eventually end up down at McDonald's, right? And when I get down to McDonald's, and then I'm still sketched out. I'm sketched out about the whole thing, and I don't know what to do. To be honest, I just don't know what to do. It's like, man, I've never found myself in this position before. I don't know what to do. So anyway, I get on, because I went to McDonald's because they have free Wi-Fi there, right? So I could get on my laptop, because I always had a laptop in my backpack, right? So, I get on my laptop, and I'm not even sure what I'm doing, to be honest. I really wasn't sure what I was doing at that point. I didn't know. So, anyway, but that's when Paula shows up. And Paula and I, we weren't friends, right? But we knew each other. It's like, it's one of those things, small island, and and we know who lives in the neighborhood. We know who lives on the island. It's like you run into each other. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? That kind of thing. But I don't know that much about her. So anyway, so I run into Paula, and I remember, because I was feeling so bad and so sorry for myself for, man, being interrogated, for overnight, being interrogated for this thing all night, and I'm scared, and I'm feeling sorry for myself, I guess, right? And I remember seeing Paula, and she had a bandage on her neck from the night, right? And I remember seeing her, and I was just like, and all of a sudden I felt like I'm not trying to curse, I guess, but I felt really bad, right? Because I was like, here I am feeling sorry for myself, and then I see her, right? And she's bruised up, and she has the thing on her neck, and it's like, and when and I told her what happened to me. I told her that they took me down to the station. I told her what happened, and the thing is Paula. Paula, yes, she did cry, and yes, she did, cry on my shoulder, and I told you I felt horrible, because it was just like it's like, again, here I am feeling bad because they grilled me all night, and then I saw and heard from her experience, right? And no, I just felt bad about it. It's like, okay, here I am again. I guess it's somebody always has something worse thing, there's always.
Objection to the self-serving statements, Judge.
All right. I'll overrule the objection. You
Thank
can
you,
continue.
Anyway, so it was definitely, again, while I was still not certain about what was going to happen here, but it definitely put me in a different mindset to see her, right? And, but anyway, so after I saw her, I remember I went back to COTS, because now I'm going to COTS, and I'm, not going back to the warehouse. I don't want nothing to do with it, right? So I go back to COTS, and, they had, again, another little Thanksgiving dinner thing there, and, I had some of that, whatever. And then I went into where the bunk is, and this is when I get arrested, right? And when I got arrested, because, Detective Pitcher was the, one of the ones who talked to me when they were doing their interviews. And I remember him leading the charge, but there was a good amount of officers, and they were coming in from both sides. And I remember looking up at him, and I was like, I guess we're not talking now, are we? And he's like, no. And so anyway, so they arrest me, and they take me over to the jail, right? And and the whole time I'm kind of flipping, and I'm like, literally, like, I'm like telling them I didn't have anything to do with this. And, and so I'm telling them this stuff, and somewhere along the lines, I get told that it's about witness tampering, right? And I'm like, I thought it was over Paula. I thought it was because I talked to her at McDonald's. And I was like, nobody told me I couldn't talk to her, right? But that's not what it ends up being about, and I won't testify as to what it was, because I think that would, Mr. Mansfield probably object to it, but at the same time. So, so I'm thinking, again, and my head is spinning again, and okay, so now I'm in jail, and they take me, and they literally, okay, the jail has the elevator, goes up, they take me in. I remember getting booked, kind of booked in, whatever the hell, whatever that is, where they check in, whatever, right? But they do that, and this is, I'm not going to say I haven't been to jail before. I've been to Key West jail one other time, and it was for misdemeanors, right? Boat charges, it was nothing. I mean, I can't say it was nothing, but, it was misdemeanors. But anyway, so thing is they take me right to the back, right? And they put down all these brown paper bags, and there's a bunch of guards around me, and they literally make me drop all my clothes right there on the bag, and they put me in the black and white stripes, and then they put me in chains head to toe. I mean, chains, chains. And they take me right to solitary, right? Now, again, I've been to jail before, right? Never for anything close to this. And the thing is, and I've never had an experience like it, ever. But they take me there, they put me in solitary, and my mind is spinning. I can't even explain to you guys what it's like. It's like, I just didn't know. Look, I was a normal guy a second ago, and now I'm sitting in a jail cell, and I'm, being put in chains, and man, everybody's, people are telling me I'm a murderer, and so I'm in there, and I'm in the solitary, and solitary is weird. It's 23 hours.
To the relevance of solitary.
Well, I'm just telling the story. I mean, look, you can tell me where to stop if you want.
Well, sustain that objection.
Yeah, I mean, okay. And I'm not exactly sure what is relevant of anything. I'm just telling the story.
I understand, Mr. Tucker, but...
Anyway, so yeah, I go to jail, and, over the course of time, I mean, it's, I guess it's not really relevant as far as now. I meet my wife. I shouldn't say meet my wife. I've known her since we were kids, but she was the first person to contact me. She was the first person to contact me when I got there, and I think it was like day 7. And I was surprised. I was really surprised because we hadn't seen each other in 33 years, and I can't even tell you. But anyway, the thing is so yeah, she comes, and by this point, I still didn't have a lawyer. I was still in solitary. I still don't know why I'm there. I have no idea why I'm there, really. I mean, I know what they're saying. I don't know.
Objection, Judge, to this.
I just.
Okay.
We're rambling here.
Well, I don't rambling, but I'm not sure how much what we're hearing is not relevant. So,
would you like me to?
Well, if we'd like a little direction, we can excuse the jurors, or.
Yeah, I'll take direction. I'll take direction. I mean.
Well.
It's like, I just don't know what
I understand.
Or you want me to
I'm
go?
just suggesting that it would be prudent, in my view, for just a moment or two to excuse the jurors, and we'll get back to you shortly. Okay, have a seat. So, I just wanted to excuse the jurors. I mean, not finding fault, Mr. Tucker has, certainly comported himself well on the witness stand. It's just that when you start to get into the circumstances of incarceration, of reuniting with ultimately his wife and the like, you objected. That's objectionable.
Yes, Judge, it is objectionable. He's courting sympathy from the jury, trying to tell them how horrible solitary is. I mean, it's not relevant information.
I understand. I agree with you. I'm not sure if he's intentionally trying to do that. I didn't get that impression. I got the impression he was telling his story. And I didn't attribute any ill motive. I understand the potential effect that it could have. That's why I sustained your objection, and it's why I excused the jurors to try to give some direction so we don't have to keep going back and forth.
Very well.
So,
I mean, I understand he's being allowed to testify in the narrative, but, getting into how devastating this was for him and all the thought process, I mean, what's the purpose of that other than a court?
well,
Your Honor, I mean,
go
if I
ahead.
may.
Go ahead.
Look, you got to understand, this was an extremely emotional experience, and it's like when I'm trying to remember this, it is hard for me. This was not something pleasant. It wasn't something cool.
Of course not.
And it's hard for me to bring it up and not bring, not have emotions about it.
I understand that. I mean, I
sorry.
think for most, the vast majority of human beings, it would be extremely traumatic, devastating, life-altering, whatever strong words you want to use to experience that. And I get it. And I think I've given quite a bit of leeway in terms of you, quote-unquote, telling your story. But at this particular point, I'm not sure how much else is relevant.
Yeah, I would ask the same thing. I bet. What else would you like me to go into? I mean, how far back do you want me to go? I mean, I did miss the one in there. There is the one where I go to Metro PCS. I haven't talked about that because that is one of the things that got me arrested.
Well,
So I don't know. I don't know what you want to know.
I can't tell you what I would like you to go into or wouldn't like you to go into. The only thing I can say is that I feel I've granted quite a bit of leeway, but in terms of the building up to the event, if you will, the aftermath, your experience with law enforcement, your experience being arrested, but how much, I don't think there's much room for any more of that unless there's
a couple
something that you're going to say was seized from you, or you're going to try to explain away some statement that you made.
No, Your Honor, but there are a couple of important things that I actually forgot to tell the jury at this point. Not anything. I don't think it's going to take very long. There's just a couple of things as I'm going through this. I mean, I forgot to tell them about Metro PCS because to me it really didn't mean anything at the time.
Okay.
But it does later.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's factual in nature, and I'm not saying.
But I mean,
solitary isn't factual, but that's really not relevant to the proof or the defense. That's just the, what should we say, the fallout of being arrested. It doesn't go to the elements of the crime or a defense.
No,
right?
no, it doesn't, Your Honor. It's just thinking about it. It was like, okay, I didn't know where to end there, and I can end that right there.
I
That's
understand that, and you did kind of indicate amenability to seeking some sort of direction, and that's why I use the jurors to try to do so.
Thank you.
So I think we've
Yeah, I think we've gone,
given
I
as
mean,
much
that
of
far.
that as we
Yeah.
can in terms of direction, and so,
I'd say there's a couple more pieces, and that's it,
Okay.
just
All
to
right.
make sure that, you know, again, they get the full picture here.
I understand that. But, so, let's bring them in, please.
All jurors present in court, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. Welcome back, members of the jury. The defendant remains on the witness stand and is going to continue his direct testimony. So you can proceed.
Okay, and, yeah, I was just, you know, look, I think we agreed that, you know, stopping where, you know, story where, you know, that part is probably a good idea. But there were a couple of things I forgot in there that happened along the way. I go at one point, and this is before I get arrested, I go to Metro PCS, and I'm going to pay my phone bill, right? That's all I'm going. I'm going over there, and I'm going to go over to Burger King and get something to eat. And I remember Roy Wilson, you know, he's outside the warehouse, and I just happened to be going out, and, you know, he asked if he could walk with me, right? I'm like, okay, you know, Ken, at this point I don't know anything, so it's like, I'm like, okay. So we walk over there, and this becomes something later, but, and, you know, I didn't think of anything of it at the time, you know, but we go over there, and I pay my phone bill, and, you know, but this is before the raid, you know, and it becomes something later. But the thing is, you know, that I just figured that had to be in there just because, again, it does become part of the story. So does, you know, the whole Fantasy Fest thing, that becomes part of the story too. Because, you know, I guess I can't testify to what those pieces are. I guess I'll save that for my close. But I felt it necessary to tell you about that trip. And then I just want to make sure that we've got everything here. Because I don't think there's anything else I can remember from the time period that's actually relevant to the situation. I can tell you this, because somebody else asked me this not too long ago, and they asked me if I had ever been to the treehouse before, right? And yes, I've been to the treehouse 3 times in my life, right? I was there once because when I first got back to Key West, right, I got back and I was coming from Arizona, right? And I get back to Key West, and yeah, rents here are high. Everybody knows that, right? And I saw an ad in the paper, I want to say. I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. But it was Matt. And it's the only time I've ever met the victim, right? It's the only time. And he was renting out the flats on the treehouse, right, for $350 a month, if I remember correctly. And, you know, and the thing is, you know, I go there to check it out because, like I said, I'm pretty sure it was an ad in the paper or something like that, right? But I go there and, you know, because I'm looking for a place to stay. I just got back, right? So I'm looking for a place to stay. And when I got there, I was like, okay, it's these flats on the treehouse, and it's built up. It's like a deck on a deck on a deck, I guess. And, you know, I'm looking at that. And then, you know, for the bathroom facilities, it was like a trailer in the back, and it was like a caved-in roof, if I remember correctly, and there's a toilet in there, nothing else, right? And I'm like, for $350 a month, I ain't doing it, right? I'm just not doing it, right? But that's not to say that Matt was actually a nice guy, you know. I mean, that's the only time I've ever met him, and he was a nice guy. He was, you know, that's about all. I mean, like I said, I didn't get to know him or anything like that, but, you know, he showed me around, showed me what he had, and I just said no. That's all it was. And the other 2 times I was there was at Todd O'Quinn. I knew Todd O'Quinn. And Todd O'Quinn, you know, we went to the bar a couple times, you know, went down to the Hogfish, and I had a little bit too much to drink or whatever, and, you know, I couldn't get all the way back to, you know, either Cots or, you know, I stayed at a couple of different places, but yeah. And I couldn't make it all the way back, because again, remember, this is after the storm, you know, I'm still trying to rebuild, you know. And so anyway, you know, I remember staying there two nights, like there's 2 different times, but different times, not 2 nights in a row, but 2 different time periods, and just because I couldn't make it back. And I remember one night, I don't know if Paula remembers, but I remember one night she woke me up yelling at me. But yeah, and it's like, you know, but the thing is so yeah, those are the only 3 times that I've been to the treehouse. And let's see, and then what was the other one? There was something else somebody asked me not too long ago, and I think it's kind of relevant. Trying to remember. It's like, because yeah, that takes care of that. But trying to remember here. Oh no, somebody asked me if I knew Matt, and like I said, I've already answered that question. It was like, I met him once, you know. As far as anything else, I'm trying to think of anything else that you guys need to know. I don't know. I guess Mr. Mansfield can remind me now. I guess I'll go ahead and turn it over to Cross.
Okay, thank you. Is there any cross-examination?
Yes, Judge? So, Mr. Tucker, your story in front of this jury today is you were drunk that day.
Yep.
Plastered.
Yep.
You were drinking highballs, red balls, what you call them?
Fireball.
Fireballs. What's a fireball?
I'm surprised you don't know, but okay.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
No, you're wrong. I was getting ready. I'm answering your question. Fireball is it's a whiskey. It's cinnamon whiskey. You know, it's very popular. That's why I said I'm surprised.
And that's what you drank. That's what you were drinking the day that this all happened.
Yes, sir.
Got so drunk you went back to the warehouse, went upstairs, fell asleep,
Knocked out.
knocked out.
Yep.
Now you were at the warehouse. You said you had been there on and off, right?
Well, not necessarily on and off. I mean, I actually staying there. I think there was only 2 times. You know, there was during the hurricane, and then there was the time period. You know, for CJ and Michelle. Other
Right,
than that, I knew a couple people who lived there, and yes, man, I'd stop by there every once in a while.
So you were basically house sitting for CJ and Michelle.
Yes, sir.
But this is not a apartment building, right? This is like a flop house. People are renting rooms or hanging out in rooms.
I wouldn't call it that. And the thing is you know, because that's a fairly derogatory term, and
Okay, the question's very simple. It's not a rentable apartment building where you rent rooms.
Okay, to put it this way, was the landlord doing something illegal? Sure. Did everybody else know that
It's
they
not the
weren't supposed to
question,
be there?
Mr. Tucker.
Well, I don't know what you're asking.
The question is very specific.
Okay, be
Okay?
specific.
It's not a place where you rent apartments. Is that correct?
Yes, it is, because they had apartments there for rent.
Okay. There were actual legitimate apartments for rent in this
They're
warehouse.
literally- and that's why I was answering your question the way I did. Legitimate, no, the landlord was not. He was, he's subletting this thing, and he built apartments in it.
So you were house sitting for your friends, right?
Yes,
And that's the only reason you were even staying at the place at that point in time.
yes.
But you didn't have another place to live, right? You were going, you said
No, I mean, the
house.
thing is, yeah, I was actually saving up for a boat. I actually had money in my pocket.
Okay, I didn't ask you about money in your pocket. You were actually staying at a homeless shelter known as COPS.
Yes,
Is that
I was.
correct?
Yes, I was.
All right. So you didn't have a permanent home.
No.
And you did your share of partying during this time,
Yes.
right? You said it was Fantasy Fest, and this is what you do at Fantasy Fest. You tie one on for a couple of weeks, you said, right?
Oh, yeah. Around Fantasy Fest time? Yeah, of course.
It goes on for a while, right?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, yeah, probably every Fantasy Fest I've ever been to.
Judgment approach,
Yes.
showing what's been previously marked as whiskey for identification. You recognize that?
Sure do.
And what is that?
That would be me.
And is that how you looked at back in November?
It sure is.
Let's seek to move in, W?
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor. I'm just wondering what the relevance of what I looked like back then. But
I mean, if there's an objection.
no, it's okay. We can go ahead and put it in.
All right, so admit as dates next in order.
18.
Thank you, So this is how you look back in 2017, right? Pretty full goatee.
Oh, yeah, big full goatee.
Big full goatee, right? Yep. Kind of thing that would be hard to cover if you were putting a mask on that stopped at the chin, right?
I wouldn't say that. I actually wouldn't say that.
Wouldn't
Because
agree with
I
that?
mean, again, that would be speculation, so I'll object.
Okay, so you don't agree that it would be hard to cover if you just had a simple face mask?
I'm not going to agree to that at all, because, man, again, I'm not saying
Certainly
it
easier
would,
to-
I'm not saying it wouldn't.
Certainly easier to cover with a neck gaiter, right? You pull the neck gaiter up, it covers the mouth, the chin, everything.
The thing is here's the thing, is that whole neck gaiter thing, I didn't know what one was until after I heard your client say it. Or
Didn't
I
know
should
what a
say,
neck
not your
gaiter was.
client, but whatever.
Didn't know what a neck gaiter was.
No, I didn't, actually, to be honest.
All right, so now you're living at this warehouse. You know Rory Wilson, don't you?
Yes, I do.
You guys are hanging out now and then, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Partying
like I said,
together?
I don't know. You know, like, again, I didn't go over there all the time because, again, April and I did not get along. So, not trying to hang out with her too much.
April didn't like you.
No, she did not.
You didn't like her.
No, I did not, actually. Now, did we hang out sometimes? Sure. And I remember there's times we did party. You know, that was like, I remember one time we went downtown, you know, Rory Wilson. And because, again, here's the thing is I remember this during the hurricane. They had, was it the hogfish they were
Mr.
giving?
Tucker, I'm going to cut you off, sir. There's no question pending. Did you hang out socially or not with April Walker and Rory
No,
Wilson?
April Walker, I tried not to. And, you know, I'm not saying she didn't come looking for Rory a couple times, but yeah, I tried not to. But Rory Wilson, yes, I did hang out with him on a few occasions.
And you heard that
Excuse
out.
me one thing, is that exhibit being published, or are you gonna take it back to the?
Oh, I've already published it, Judge. I
Okay,
already
so we're gonna, you gonna put it on the podium, or let's bring it to the
Okay.
clerk? Thank you.
Okay, so, Mr. Tucker, so you heard the testimony, right? You heard that there was an allegation that you threatened April Walker.
Oh, I've heard that testimony, but testimony wasn't true.
So you didn't threaten
Oh, no.
Wilson's pregnant, nine months
no.
pregnant girlfriend.
Oh, no.
You
No,
actually
no, no.
felt bad for her because she was put on the ground during the raid.
Yes, I did. And man, look, even if I don't like somebody, you know, again, seeing them on the ground in that position when she's 8 months pregnant, yes, that's not cool. You know, that's bottom line. I didn't like her, but that doesn't mean you put her on the ground in that position.
Now, you testified that you went up to CVS with Rory Wilson that night.
No, I did not.
When did you and Rory Wilson go to CVS and for you
To tell
to
you the
hit
honest
smoke?
truth, that was put to me by investigators. They said that, but again, I told you I was drunk that day, and I'm sitting there and I tried to remember it, and man, I'm sitting there going, I don't remember doing that.
But you just testified to this jury that you went to CVS to get
Oh,
cigarettes.
I went to
wasn't it?
Tom Thumb
Tom
to get
Thumb, okay.
cigarettes, and it wasn't
Tom
with
Thumb.
Rory Wilson. It was with Travis.
With Travis.
Right.
You and Travis went. Let's
So
talk
let's
about
get the
Travis.
story straight.
You and Travis were acquaintances, right?
Yes, we were acquaintances.
Okay. Travis was staying at the warehouse as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, you and Travis were both staying upstairs in the warehouse, right?
Yeah, when I was staying in CJ and Michelle's room, yes.
Travis was in another room upstairs.
Yes, he was upstairs. But you got to remember, he also went to jail. So, I mean, he wasn't there for a second. So,
Right? But he came back about a week later, right?
to be honest, I don't remember how long it was. I know I was at work when he went to jail.
Let me ask you, Mr. Tucker, was Travis there the day of the raid?
That's the thing is, he wasn't there in the beginning, right? Because, man, you know, he wasn't there.
Was he there when they took you down and put you in the police car?
No, he wasn't there for that.
Was he there when they took you off
wasn't
to-
there for that part of it. At least not that I know of, right?
Was he there when
wasn't
they took you off to jail?
Was he there when no? Because when I went to jail, I was at COTS. And when I went to jail, I wasn't. They didn't grab me from the warehouse. They grabbed me from COTS.
The night of the raid, they didn't take you down and then let you go?
They did take me down and let me go, but that wasn't taking me to jail. That was taking me down and interrogating me all night.
Okay, so the night they took you down to interrogate you, was Travis there when you guys left the warehouse to go down and be
Hold on,
interrogated?
hold on. Let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly. What? Please repeat the question.
The night of the raid,
Right, gotcha.
when they took you down, not to jail, but to question you.
Right, gotcha.
Was Travis at the warehouse when you guys left to go to the police station?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
And how
'Cause
did
I
you
was-
get to the police station that night? You
I
were-
got
they
I got
took you?
there in a squad car in handcuffs.
Okay. Now, let's see. you said that while you were and this is after you got arrested, you were in jail and you got reacquainted with an old high school friend of yours.
I thought that wasn't relevant.
You just testified to it, sir.
Okay, well, in that case, yes, I did.
I'm going to ask you, just answer the questions if you could.
Yeah.
And if there's a relevance objection, you can make it.
Thank you.
But you don't need to question me.
Okay.
You said you were in jail.
Yes.
And you got reacquainted with this high
Yes.
school wife or girlfriend of yours who became your wife.
Well, actually, to be, again, she wasn't my high school girlfriend. She wasn't, she was a friend that I knew from when I was 14 years old. And yes, I hadn't seen her in 33 years.
And you guys ended up getting married, right?
Yes, we did.
And she is actually very wealthy, isn't she?
Multimillionaires.
I beg your pardon?
Multimillionaires.
And you guys are you married today to her?
Yes, I am.
Going beyond, I'm sorry, but I cut him off of your objection, and I.
Okay, Judge, well, he just testified about his wife.
He mentioned it, and you touched upon within the scope, but I believe
Okay.
this is beyond the scope.
I have no
and
problem talking about my wife.
Okay,
I understand, but I do.
all right, so now, you're not in jail the entire time waiting for your trial, right?
No, that's not true. I was in jail for 2 years.
And then you actually got out pending your
Yeah,
trial.
$2 million bond.
Let's talk about Paula, your relationship with Paula Belmont.
Okay,
You just testified that you weren't great friends in the beginning, you just kind of knew of each other, right?
that is true.
She testified you'd never been to the treehouse, but that's not accurate, right? Because you testified you'd actually been there 3 times.
I don't remember her ever testifying to that, but she may not have remembered it. It was one time. That's it.
I thought you said 3 times you'd been
No,
there.
I've been there 3 times, but Paula, and she woke me up one time yelling at me.
Okay.
Because, man, I wasn't supposed to be there, apparently. I don't know. But, man, the thing is, she woke me up and she was yelling at me. I don't even know if she remembers it.
And now, describe your relationship with Paula today.
Paula's one of my best friends.
One of your best friends,
Yes.
all right? I'm going to show you what's been previously marked for identification. There's a composite, 2 photos, Sierra 1 and 2. Do you recognize these photos?
I sure do.
And what do they depict?
They depict me and Paula at the hospital when I'm trying to make her feel better and making funny faces at the camera.
When were these shots taken?
Very recently.
Judge, at this time, I seek to move in State's Exhibit S for identification.
Any objection?
Nope.
All right, admit S,
19 A and B.
all right.
So you said these were taken recently, like in the last 2 weeks?
Actually, you want to know exactly which day? I think I can remember.
Sure, go ahead.
It was the day that I actually, went over there to check on her because she said, she said that, she was, her doctor said that it had taken it worse. It was the day before I came in here and asked for the motion.
And then she lay in bed with her. Didn't she have some kind of an infectious disease or something?
Hence the bodysuit.
But she had no mask on that picture.
That's true.
Tongue's hanging out?
Took a chance. I was trying to make her feel better.
And you said you become one of your friends with her, right?
Like I said, she's one of my best friends.
Well, what's changed? I know you said you were not always friends and now you're best friends with her. What changed?
Well, I don't know if you know the story of how that happened, but I'll go ahead and tell it to you if you want me to.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Paula was a victim in the crime, right? And now I am an accused murderer at that point, right? And here it is when this all happened, that makes it so that I can't talk to Paula, right? I'm not allowed to communicate with her. That makes sense, right? They had a protective order that immediately went in, and I couldn't talk to her. Paula, she gets diagnosed with COPD, right? And And Paula, she actually files a motion with the court, right? Because she wants to, and she goes on the press and she starts saying this on the press, right? She wants to apologize to me for her role in anything that they've done to me. That's what she says.
So she's
And the judge
apologizing to you.
She wants to. She can't talk to me, right? So she wants to.
Now, you're aware in the beginning she couldn't ID the second person, right?
Look, I'm aware in the beginning.
Very simple question. You are aware, yes or no, that in the beginning, when she was first spoken
Mr.
to,
Mansfield.
she could not, Mr. Tucker,
You're
listen to
asking
the
me to
question,
remember
okay?
6 years ago and
It's a
then
very
what,
simple
and what I
question.
thought then.
Are you aware?
Gentlemen, let him finish the question and you can answer.
Yeah, let me answer it.
Okay, but he hasn't finished the question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr.
Ask away.
Thank you. Are you aware that 6 years ago, when she was first interviewed by the police, she could not ID the second person? Are you aware of that, yes or no?
I'm going to tell you, I'm aware that she could not positively ID the second person, man, when this first happened. No.
And she was able to identify Rory Wilson, but not the second person, correct?
Yes, she did not positively ID the second person.
Well, she said she didn't get a good look at the second person, right?
That's not true.
She said that she was focused on Rory Wilson at the time, and
I
that
object, Your
the
Honor.
second person,
I object, Your Honor.
she
He's
couldn't get a
asking me
look
to go
at.
what I know from video and what I know from police reports now. You know,
I
that's,
sustain the objection. There are varying statements that she's made.
Yep.
So, at one point she said it, but presumably you're aware of other statements.
right.
Okay.
Because again, I watched all these videos and I read
So
all
let's
this
go back to
stuff.
that first night when she's interviewed. She says she can't ID the second person, right? Didn't get a good
Excuse
look
me,
at him.
hold on, excuse me, which night are we talking about?
Night of the crime when she's
Okay.
being interviewed.
Again, you're asking me to go to video, you're asking me to go to police reports, and that is hearsay, so
Are
I'll
you
object.
aware that she was
Object.
unable to identify the second person?
Excuse me?
Are you aware she was unable to identify the second person
At which time period?
the night of the crime?
Again, you're asking me to go to police reports, you're asking me to commit hearsay.
Simple question, sir.
So, objection.
Okay, I'm going to overrule that objection.
Okay.
It's just your awareness
Okay.
of one
My
point in
awareness-
time and one statement.
My awareness at the time, right, and if I can, and I'm going to have to remember this because the Lord knows I've gone over this a million times, so I'm going to have to think about my memory here. At the time, as far as even any statements by Paula, hold on a second, because, okay, I was in jail when this first happened.
I'm asking
Right?
you as you sit here,
Sir,
Mr.
you're
Tucker,
asking me to
I'm
remember.
asking you as you sit here today, not where your mind was back then, as you sit here today.
Okay, as I sit here today,
Are you aware that she could not ID the second person
and
on the
you're
night
asking,
it happened?
okay, and you're asking me to commit hearsay.
I don't believe that's the case, so you
okay.
can answer it, and
Okay.
remember, you'll have the opportunity for
Okay,
re-
as
Mr. Tucker,
I sit
Mr.
here
Tucker,
today.
Just let me
Oops, sorry.
finish. You'll have the opportunity for redirect.
Okay, thank
So if you, after this is finished, want to elaborate on certain things, you may, but in terms of succinct answer to this question, you do
Yeah,
need to give it.
I'll give you a succinct answer to this question. Okay, it depends on the time period as far as Paula. As today, I could definitely tell you that different time periods, she said different things. I can say that.
And you're aware that the very night it happened, she did not identify the second person?
The very night it happened, again, that's the only reason I would even remember this right now is because we've been going over it recently.
Correct.
And I'm going over it, and she had varying statements at that point.
Well, you're certainly aware that at the perpetuated testimony,
Yes.
she was able to say it wasn't you as the second person, right?
I'm also aware that she was, again, coerced into making statements by police, so, okay.
Didn't ask you about that, sir. Very simple question.
Well, if you're
You
gonna-
were
if you're
aware-
gonna lead me- if
You
you're
were
gonna lead me-
aware that during her perpetuated testimony that you sat and watched,
Yes.
you observed her adamantly
Yes.
stating it was
Yes.
Tucker's not the second guy, right?
Yep, I sure did.
That was 4 years after the crime was committed.
That was
about 3 years.
That was 4 years after the crime was committed.
Well, September of 20 would be about
And-
3 years, right?
Okay, somewhere in there. But here's the thing.
And there's no question pending, sir. I'm asking the questions you're answering.
Go ahead.
Okay? That's how this works.
Okay, go for it. Ask me another question. I'll take any ones you got.
Great. Good to hear it.
Yeah. That's why I put myself up here.
Now, she testified that she had talked to your wife through Facebook. Did you also communicate with her through Facebook?
No, I was not allowed.
So you never had any communications with her?
No, not on Facebook at that time.
Have you had any, you saw her at McDonald's after the crime, right?
Yes, but I was not under arrest at that point. I was not under a protective order at that point.
Okay, but when you saw her at McDonald's, you guys had a conversation there, right?
Yes, we did.
And did you tell her anything about the crime when you saw her at McDonald's?
You know, I told her what had happened to me, about the police interrogating me, and she did ask me some questions. I remember that, and I remember answering, you know, different questions as she asked them. I remember she told me her experience. She told me how horrible it was. I remember, like I said, sitting there feeling like, you talk about feeling, God, not sorry for somebody. That's the wrong way to say it.
So you
but
communicated
whatever.
with, is it fair to say you communicated with her at McDonald's?
Yes.
Now, is it your testimony today that you've not communicated with her directly at all from that moment until today?
No. When did I
Okay.
say that?
So tell us about those communications. You said you weren't allowed to
Okay.
talk to her, right?
Yes, sir. And I
Okay,
also said
and when did that end?
I also said she filed a motion with the court to be able to talk to me, and that yes, she was going on the press saying these things, that she wanted to apologize to me. Judge Jones granted that motion, and
you
she
had
was allowed to talk
communication.
to me.
And then
that's
you've had,
and now we
you've
are.
had general communications with her ever
He-
since.
He was still
Sorry,
testifying.
I'm just telling
No,
you.
I'm not talking to you. I'm saying, if you weren't complete with your answer, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just. Look, there comes a point where.
Judge, again, there's no question
No,
pending.
well, he was still answering the
Thank you.
last question.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
go, finish your answer to the last question.
Judge Jones granted the order allowing us to be able to talk, and that day, yeah, I was in tears.
Okay, so you got the in tears part out. The jury heard it.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah, thanks.
All right, great. Let's move on. So you've talked to her, admittedly, since then.
Oh, quite a bit.
Quite a bit, right?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Do you remember her taking a trip to California?
Vaguely, yes.
She posted pictures of it, right?
If I remember right, she posted pictures of Woody.
Of who?
She likes Woody from, I guess I forget what the name of the movie is. It's some Disney thing, man. But she likes a character named Woody.
Oh, Woody from Toy Story.
That's what it is. Thank you.
1 minute, please, Judge.
All right?
I'm not sure if we could talk at that time, though.
Violet. Yeah, these are.
Wouldn't he normally have to show this?
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't he show this to me before he brings it?
Not necessarily. This one.
Checking.
That's fine.
It's weird.
He's certainly going to give you an opportunity, and, you know, you can go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker, showing you the marked Tango 1 through 5 composite.
Okay.
Recognize these photos?
Let me see. Yes, they're from Paula Belmont's Facebook page, and the thing is, I don't think we were talking at that time,
How do you know her from her Facebook page?
because I've seen her Facebook page.
So, do you remember seeing these on her Facebook page?
Yeah, I don't understand the relevance of them.
Judge, at this time, I seem to move in what's been previously marked as Tango 1 through 5.
Okay, is there any objection?
Again, I'd like to know the relevance of the pictures.
Okay, you're objecting to
Yeah, relevance.
Okay, so we'll have to have a bench conference then. So come on around.
Thank you, sir.
let's pick it back up. You're aware of her trip to California, right?
Yes, I am.
She took pictures with Woody, you said, right?
Yep. I think she takes them pretty much on every trip she goes on.
All right. Ever since that order was lifted, you've had pretty steady communication with her. Is that fair to say?
Fairly steady. Sometimes, man, a little more, sometimes less.
Now, you talked about this friend, Big somebody. What's his name again?
Big Scott.
Big Scott.
Yep.
Big Scott was staying at the warehouse with everybody?
No, he was not. He was there that night, yes, but.
Which night is that, sir?
That would be, I guess that would be the night of the crime. Because, again, you know, like I said, I went go get cigarettes with Travis, come back, and Big Scott is at the door.
And so Big Scott, was he a friend of yours or an acquaintance? How would you describe him?
Actually, he's a friend, you know, and he was a friend of, I think he was a friend of a couple people there.
And at some point, are you aware of Big Scott telling you and Travis and Rory, I don't know what you guys are plotting, but I want nothing to do with it? Do you remember that comment?
No.
No?
No.
When did you first learn that Mr. Bonnet had been murdered?
I told you that already. I told you that already.
Okay, but you need.
I didn't. Well, actually, I shouldn't say I knew Mr. Bonnet got murdered at that point. At that point, the first time I heard anything about what had happened at the treehouse, and it wasn't even the treehouse. You know, they told me somebody got stabbed in the CVS parking lot. That's the first time I heard about it.
So the way you heard about it, the stabbing
Yes.
was alleged to have happened in the CVS parking lot.
Right. The next time I heard about it, I was at the police station.
Is that when you found out it was actually at this treehouse location?
Yes.
And that's when you were talking to Detective Pitcher, right?
That would be Detective Pitcher, Danielle Malone, and Captain Phelps.
Now, at some point, didn't you tell Detective Pitcher what you told this jury today, that you were not involved and that you were sleeping off, you were drunk and sleeping it off or something?
Yeah, I told him, man, I told him the same thing. I couldn't remember much, man, from the night. And yes, I remember passing out. I remember waking up.
Right.
Because I needed cigarettes, and I went to was it the Tom Thumb, and Travis went with me.
And that's what you told Detective Pitcher, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you even told Detective Pitcher that just ask Travis, he'll back you up, right?
I thought so. I didn't know anything was wrong.
All right. Well, Travis didn't back you up, did he?
No, he didn't.
Travis
There's a
came
good reason
clean
for that.
and gave a statement to the police, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And,
Okay.
you know,
It's just a
again-
yes, no?
Okay. Yes, he
Use your
did.
commentary on it.
Yes, he did.
Do you remember when you saw Paula at McDonald's in this whole timeline? When did you run into her at McDonald's? The very next day? Was it 2 days later? 3 days later?
It was, let's see, hold on. It would have been, okay, because the raid, suppose, you know, if you want to call it that, whatever you want to call it, that happens on the 21st. Going into the 22nd is when I'm literally being interrogated all night. That day, whatever that day is, that would probably be, that would be the 22nd again, because it ends that morning. So, okay, 22nd, it would be on the 22nd.
Okay. And let me ask you, Mr. Tucker, you were making pretty good money, right? $300 an hour to put these blue tarps up?
Yeah, I was doing all right.
What's the reason you hadn't gotten a place? You know, you were still living in these
Well, because
temporary
again,
places.
I lived on a boat before, right? And as I testified, I was trying to save up for a new boat. There are going to be plenty of cheap ones around, but here's the thing: is I don't like paying outrageous rents that are in Key West. I'd rather buy a boat and live on the water.
Now, you said you'd passed out that day drinking these fireballs, right?
Yes, sir.
What time in that, what time, take us through that day, the timeline for that day. When were you drinking these fireballs?
I know. Look, it's like I said, I don't really remember the day that well. I remember drinking during the day. I do remember that. I don't even remember all who was there. I know there were other people that came in and out. I know I passed out somewhere along the lines, you know. But that, I mean, asking me specifics, especially 6 years later, I couldn't tell you.
So you started drinking these Red Balls, was the sun still up?
That would be Fireball, sir. And
Fireballs.
Yes, the sun was still up, while I was drinking. That is true.
All right. Do you remember getting out of bed and go right to the partying phase, or did you do something else before it
No,
started that day?
I already testified to that. I told you that.
Okay, well, I'm asking again.
Okay.
I appreciate you reminding me.
I'm just saying, I woke up at some point in the time, and I went and got cigarettes at the Tom Thumb. And I came back, and Travis was with me, and yes, Big Scott was there. I told you what happened after that.
But I'm talking about earlier in the day. When you got out of bed that day, did you go do something, or did you just start drinking?
No, actually, I mean, I'm pretty sure, because if I'm drinking during the day, I had a day off. So, if I'm drinking during the day, I had a day off. So, yeah, I would imagine I had the day off.
And do you remember passing out that day?
Yeah, remember passing out? I don't know if that's a proper term, but no,
Okay.
I don't remember passing out. I remember.
Don't remember passing out?
I remember I passed out somewheres along the lines, but yeah, I don't. I guess I'm being too literal here, but I remember. Yes, I went to sleep sometime during the day and night. I don't know.
And do you remember what time you woke up?
No,
Day or night?
night.
Police cars already out and about?
Policing cars were already up there on Laurel Avenue. I could see, I could see the lights from the Tom Thumb parking lot. I could see all the lights that were up on Laurel Avenue.
Do you know how many times Mr. Bonner was stabbed?
At this point, yes.
So now, I guess your story is that this is all being pinned on you, right? That you didn't do
Well,
this.
You would know better than anybody, Mr. Mansfield.
Oh, would I? But I
Yes.
wasn't there, you were. So why don't you tell me? Are you telling me this was all pinned on you?
I hate to tell you, again, Mr. Mansfield.
It's very simple,
You
Mr.
just
Tucker.
said
Is
that
your
I was
story
there. You have no proof of
Is your
that.
story
All right,
today that you were,
Sir.
this is all being made up and that you didn't do this?
Yes, this is it. That is my story all day,
Okay.
and I've said it since day one.
So this is just the big Bubba system going after you to pin this on you?
Yeah, and Mr. Mansfield. Again, I can answer that. Would you like me to answer it? Would you like me to tell you how I know that? You said you didn't want to go into that.
Well, you know what? Let's not go into that because I'm pretty sure what your opinion is has no factual basis to it.
Really?
So, in other words, this is your theory, that this is all being pinned on you by the big Bubba system.
Your Honor, I would object unless he wants to let me go into the things he doesn't want to go into.
I'll sustain that last question as argumentative.
I have nothing else.
All right.
Thank you.
So, now
Can I
you
read your-
may conduct redirect in the same fashion, but just remember it's within the scope of the cross. We're not, all right?
Okay, thank you. I don't even know if I want to read it. I don't know.
Well,
what I
you
want
don't
to read.
have to.
I'm just trying, let me think about what
All
Mr.
right.
Mansfield just asked me,
All right,
because
take a
I was
moment.
kind of getting blasted there.
If you need a moment, take a moment.
Thank you.
It's
And-
not mandatory redirect,
No.
just if you want the opportunity.
Right, again, again, I think I would like to address that last thing there, but I mean, yes, I do know that I'm being set up yes, I'm being set up for this because I'm here. That's an obvious thing. I won't go into what, again, the things we're not supposed to be talking about right now, I guess. But, I do, let's see, as far as, everything else, I mean, everything else you just asked me, I'd already talked about, so I don't think there's anything else I need to say.
All right,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you. You can step down. Should be a good time for an afternoon break, folks. How about, till, I'm just looking at the clock, 1:55, no, 2:55. 2:55, same procedures and protocols. If anybody wants to go outside the jury room, let the bailiff know. jurors have left, and you've testified now, and already made my previous ruling, so that completes the defense case. I don't know if you're gonna make a motion, renewed motion now or after the rebuttal, which,
You talking about a renewed motion for acquittal?
that's what I'm talking about.
Yes, I would like to do that. I'd like to do that after the rebuttal, I guess. or-
All right.
What time is it, Your Honor?
It's, what, 2:38, basically.
Okay,
So-
so I don't know how long they plan on doing their.
Well, I mean, I don't know how long this video and the deposition excerpts shouldn't take very long. I don't know how long the video is. It's,
I think maybe 10 minutes, Judge. 10
okay,
or 12
so
minutes.
that's, their
We did
rebuttal isn't gonna take that long.
And we did agree we're going to play the full first video, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. I just
All right, well, let's all take a break, and then we'll have the jury, then we'll have the rebuttal, then we'll excuse them, then we'll have the argument for the motion, and